One of the top contributors on the Facebook Final Cut Pro users group had the following question. I need to highlight a text line after line according to the timing of the voiceover, and I'm struggling for hours already. I'm new with FCP, and I couldn't find anything on YouTube. I want to pace it with the voice reading. Thank you so much. Hi there, I'm Don Bullock. I've called this channel the Tech Eye Hound because I sniff out new things that have to do with Apple and other technologies that I use here in my studio. Recently on Facebook, as I showed at the very beginning, someone asked a question. He's one of the top contributors on the Facebook page Final Cut Pro users. So I decided I'd add a tutorial on how I solved his problem. So here we go. Of course, the first step is to highlight the text and copy it so that I can paste it into Keynote. I'm copying it straight out of Facebook. I'll be using Keynote. While some might use an app like Motion or another app for this task, I'm using Keynote because it comes free with every Mac. I use it a lot for special effects in Final Cut Pro and have been using it for many years in iMovie. All the work will be done in Keynote and then converted into a movie clip that can be imported into Final Cut Pro. In this video, I'll be showing exactly how I highlighted his text line by line to match my narration. For this tutorial, I'm assuming that the person who asked the question is dealing with pre-recorded narration. He's not going to do the narration himself, but that really doesn't make a big difference. Before I get to the part where I show how to highlight the text, I need to format the Keynote slide that I'll be using for this task that will be eventually put into Final Cut Pro. Afterward, I'll set things up to highlight the text. Once in Keynote, I select a template, and I selected this white one. I'm going to center it on my screen and get rid of all of this text by highlighting it and hitting delete. While you're on this page, you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner there are three words: Format, Animate, and Document. These are the three modes you'll be using in Keynote, especially the Format and Animate. You'll notice that Format has been selected because the area behind the word Format is highlighted in gray. While on this page, I'm going to select the background color for this page. When I click on this box, I get a whole selection of different backgrounds that I can use for Keynote. For this project, I'm going to keep it simple and pick a blue gradient. I'll straighten it up a little bit on the screen, and then I'll move this box, which I'll talk about later, down to the corner. I've now moved my cursor to the top of the screen to a menu that allows you to make some choices of what you're going to do on this slide. I'm going to click on Text. Suddenly the word text appears in the middle of the screen. When I click on the word text, suddenly a cursor appears. When I right-click, the menu for adding text pops up and I go down to Paste. By doing that, the text appears, but it's the same size that it was on Facebook, and it also has the white background behind it. It'll take me a while to format it on this page, increase the font size, and get rid of that white background. To do that, I've selected Format and Text in the upper right. In that menu, I'm going to increase the font size. As I increase the font size, I'll also have to rearrange the text on the screen. Once it's in about the right place that I want it and about the right size, I'll address that background issue. I'll go back to that menu and select this gear. That will bring up this sub drop-down menu. I'll go down to Background and select No Background. Now I can go back to the text and reformat it exactly the way I want. I'll highlight it, bring down the menu, and bold everything. As is often the case on Facebook posts, there's some editing that needs to be done. I'm going to move this out so that parentheses goes down to the next line. I'm going to eliminate extra spaces. An apostrophe is missing from couldn't. I'm sure he meant FCP instead of TCP, so I'll fix that. And I'll look and see if there's any other spaces or any other problems that need to be fixed. Now I've decided to stretch this out a little bit more and fill the screen a little better. So I'm going to be fiddling with that formatting just to make this look better on the screen. I think I'll go with this. Now comes highlighting the text. I'll go to the top menu and select Shape again. Go down and select Line. By default, the line appears in the middle of the screen and is very narrow. I'm going to move that up to the top line where I want it to start, and the other end over to the right-hand side where I want it to end. This menu has also appeared over on the right. I'm going to click on the color symbol in the middle of this menu, and the color wheel pops up. For now, I'm going to select a shade of green for my line. But as you can see, it's still very narrow, so I'm going to have to widen that line. I'm going to continue widening the line and adjusting it so it fits over the text and covers it up. This is taking a little while, but I want to get it right. I'll use this as a template for my other lines. Once I get this set where I want it, I'll make it so that we can see the text. Lower down in that same menu is an opacity slider, so I'm going to move the opacity of the line down so that the text can be seen through it. Then I decided that I didn't like the green. Some people are colorblind, so the green would cause problems. So I changed it over to a purple, because purple is a color that most colorblind people can see. And then I started tweaking the purple as to how dark I wanted it. The next step was right-clicking on the line. That brought up this menu, and I went down and copied the line. Right-clicking brought the menu up again, and I went down to paste. I slid that pasted line down over the next line of text. After sliding the color wheel out of the way, I pasted in all of the other lines using that same template that I used at the top. Yes, I know I could use keyboard shortcuts to do this, but I decided to do it this way because I know some of you have never used Keynote before. Of course, the bottom two lines required some adjustment in length, so I accomplished that by sliding it over. For those of you who have a Stream Deck or are considering one, I found it very handy to program keyboard shortcuts into mine. It's very useful for many apps. I hope you're still with me. The next major step in Keynote is to animate these lines. This is where Keynote shines. It's capable of a lot of different animations. In this video, I'm just showing one of many possibilities, line draw. With all the lines fixed, I moved my cursor to the upper right and selected Animate from the menu up in the upper corner. That allows me to add an effect, an animation effect, and I'm going to the Build-in menu and selecting Line Draw. After I did that, it immediately drew the line across the text in the first line. I went through and repeated that step with each line of text. I sped this up so it wouldn't take so long. You can see each line is being highlighted on the screen, and in the lower right, in what we call the Build menu, you're seeing the lines added to that menu. There'll be more on that menu in a moment. This is the Build Order menu. I've highlighted the first line in this menu. Currently, it shows that the line would be drawn on click. Since we're doing a movie instead of a slideshow, we want that to say after transition. Now I'll highlight each of the other lines and go down and put those on after the previous build instead of on click. By making this change, the lines will be highlighted one after another instead of requiring a click to draw each one. So now I've finished all 6 of them. Now comes the timing step. I need to time the narration on each of these lines of text. I used the stopwatch on my iPhone. I found it much better than this old-fashioned stopwatch that I have from many years ago. And I also bought one that I thought would be useful, but it didn't work either. So the stopwatch on my iPhone is much better than those. For this video, I'll show the iPhone just for the timing of the first line and give the times for the other lines on the screen. I need to highlight a text line after line so that's the timing for line 1. I'll just show the timing for the other lines of text. To timing of the voiceover, and I'm struggling for hours already. I'm new with FCP and I couldn't find anything on YouTube. I want to pace it with the voice reading. Thank you so much. Now comes the magic. Setting the line draw feature to draw the lines using these times. It's very easy, but it's time consuming. To show you how I place the timing for these lines in, I'll move the build order menu up next to the menu that I need to use to add the timing. I clicked on the first line and that brought up the line draw menu, and right over here is where I can make the change for the time as to how long it takes Keynote to draw the line. The timing for the first line was 3.25 seconds, so I've typed that in and moved down to the second line where I can type in 3.16 seconds. I'll continue doing the same thing for all the other lines until I reach the sixth line. I'm going to speed up the process to double time. I'm typing in each of these numbers to get them accurate. If I use these little up and down arrows that you see off to the right, they only go in increments of 0.25 seconds. Now I have to make an adjustment in the build order menu to get to that sixth line. With it selected, I can type in the 0.96 seconds for that line. Now down to the nitty-gritty. I have to match the narration to the line drawing. I have to admit that part of this step does include breaking up some of the phrases of narration. It also required some hold frames using the hold feature in Final Cut Pro, especially where there are pauses for breath in the narration. I need to highlight a text line after line according to timing of the voiceover, and I'm struggling for hours already. I'm new with FCP and I couldn't find anything on YouTube. I want to pace it with the voice reading. Thank you so much. That was my first attempt. Now let me tweak it and see if I can make it any better. I've worked on the gaps on the dialogue in Final Cut, especially the pauses at the end of sentences, plus I'm making a few changes in Keynote, and I'll show those here. Part of what I'm doing is going up here and unclicking the endpoints. I don't need endpoints for the lines, and I'm going to change the animation ease in and ease out to none. I need to make sure I do that for all 6 lines. Now let's see if this is any better. Here's the passage with these tweaks applied. I need to highlight a text line after line according to timing of the voiceover, and I'm struggling for hours already. I'm new with FCP and I couldn't find anything on YouTube. I want to pace it with the voice reading. Thank you so much. Now that I've created the sequence in Keynote highlighting the spoken text, I have to convert this Keynote slide to a movie. So I'll have to go back to Keynote to show you how to do that. So I'm now back in Keynote. This is the page that I created to highlight the text. And if I go down here, I can show you that that's what's happening. This is the build order menu and I've clicked on preview. So it's previewing what this page will do. Now from Keynote, I need to create a movie that I can put into Final Cut Pro. To do that, we go up to the top and click on File, move down to Export To, where we have the choice of PDF, PowerPoint, Movie, Animated GIF, Images, HTML, and Keynote Presentation. Those are all of our choices of things we can export to. We're going up to select Movie. Doing that brings up this menu, and you can see here that we've selected Movie. Then down here we have that it's self-playing because it's a movie, not a slideshow. These are standard delays that they have in Keynote, but they're just for click events. And this isn't a click event, but I still changed both of those to 0. Down below those is the resolution. I'm putting it on 1080p. That's the highest resolution I get from my Canon camera. Down below that is the frame rate, and I'm recording at 24 frames per second. And I'm using H.264 format. Now I'm ready to go down and click on Save. Doing that takes me back to this screen and another menu pops up. I've already entered the file name, but this is where you might want to do that if you haven't done that already. Then of course below the file name is the file location. I need to slide the build menu over so I can click Save Here. It takes a few moments to save the file, and suddenly it appears on the desktop. From there, it can be moved into Final Cut. Well, there you have it. While it may not be perfect and there may be other apps that would do a better job, you can't beat free. Remember, Keynote is free with every Mac. In regards to the use of this technique, I wouldn't use it for long passages or a whole bunch of them in one presentation. It's a technique that I think should be used sparingly. It can get irritating very quickly. I hope someone finds this tutorial helpful. I mentioned early on I use Keynote a lot for different things in my videos. It's easy to use and very versatile. Over here is a link to a video using Keynote to create animated titles. While I show how to use it in iMovie, the same technique works in Final Cut. There's another link to a video down below for your consideration. Please consider subscribing to my channel, and thank you all very much for watching.